Peace, brethren. It's Levi from the Atlanta branch, and today we're coming at you live with another Friday night. With me on tonight's panel, I have Thomas and Cameron, and we're just ready to share with you what we've learned and what we have for you today. It's going to be a fun panel. It's a small one, but I feel like we're still all going to enjoy each other's company and just discussing the scripture. So, Thomas, how are you feeling?
I'm doing good. Peace, everyone. I'm doing all right there. This is going to be a good night. Looking forward. And the topic is perfect. So I'm ready to roll on.
All right, Cameron, what about you? How are you feeling?
Good evening, everybody. I'm feeling okay. I'm feeling okay. Let's get started on this discussion. How you feeling, Levi?
I'm feeling awesome. I'm hyped to be on this panel. I'm ready for this discussion. I think Uncle Thomas just mentioned it's a really interesting topic that we have for you guys today. And I really hope to see I really want to hear the audience's takes on this. So make sure that you're commenting in the chat, that you're hitting the like button, that you're subscribing, and that you're sharing. All of that helps the Israelite nation and it helps our YouTube channel to grow so that we can get this message out to more and more people and help to rebuild this nation. So please like, share, comment, all that stuff. Without further ado, I think it's time that we hop into the meat of tonight's discussion. So with the first panel, we'll start Faith of a Israelite Parent. It's an interesting title. Uncle Thomas, Cameron, what do you guys think?
You know, that title, Faith of an Israelite Parent, let's look at the foundation of it. You're looking at that faith. And I'm going to start like this here. As a parent, before I even think about having any kids there, so I can show them that prime example to lead them. And so when you're looking at when the first born comes out the womb, and you remind yourself, in order to get that faith, I had to have the connection of God, Abraham, God, Isaac, God, Jacob, so I can articulate and make a prime example for this young child I bring into the world. That's the faith I look at. That's wow, this is beautiful. God creation, this is part of me. So now I got to have something to represent me, and not just that. I got to also represent the God of Abraham, God of Isaac, Jacob as well, is that they can see the quality that we put in for us.
Hitting
That's
the hammer right on the nail, Uncle Thomas. Just perfect. Beautiful.
Yeah,
Cameron?
yeah. I love when you said, you gotta make your own, lead by example. You got to be the example of the foundation. When it comes to, being a parent, of course. I'm not a parent, at this moment of time, but if I ever am, I think it's, really, responsible and really, really important, to have faith. Even outside of Israel, just knowing who you are, what you're working with, um, to even if you want to have kids in the first place, being comfortable, being able to even support yourself financially, being there emotionally. I think feel like that's even important and essential as as a parent as well.
That's a great point. That's a great point, Cameron. And just to add on to what you guys are saying, when I look at that word faith, it also kind of makes me think of because we talk about faith a lot here on the YouTube channel, but in this regard, we're talking about it in terms related to like parenthood. And I feel like Uncle Thomas, you kind of mentioned that with when you first see that child being brought into this world, and I feel like faith, especially in Israelite terms, it's I guess having faith in that child that you can put this child on this right path, that he'll live up to your standards and the God of Israel standards, and also just faith in the God of Israel that he can help you to help raise this child. So I feel like Cameron mentioned it, how it's a big leap in responsibility to have a child, and even more so in Israel because we know how precious our Israelite daughters and sons are. So it's a real big leap of faith when it comes to having a children because that child's precious, and you have to make sure that you lead that child on that straight and narrow path. So that's just what
Also,
I was getting out of this title. That's what I'm feeling.
I feel like it's a pretty unique experience. Like as even as like a child, I grew up in the nation, and um of course, the parents are the first teachers, so I feel like they have to like they navigate the world as themselves as an Israelite. Now they got to navigate and teach somebody the world as an Israelite as well. um
Mhm.
I feel like that's something should be pointed out.
Yeah, like you have to be like comfortable you already have to make sure that you're comfortable within that your Israel and your knowledge and your truth, and only then are you really able to make sure that the person you're raising up is also comfortable in that truth. Yeah, I see your point.
Mhm.
So I think we're gonna get into the first scripture of the night moving forward. Or first question, my bad. So this is a question for, of course, my panel and audience. Once again, if you want to answer the question, put it in the chat. We read the comments. Make sure you're just commenting and liking and sharing and subscribing, all that. So first question, how can an Israelite parent establish a foundation in their household? So I think we kind of already touched on this a little bit in the beginning, but panel, I want to hear y'all takes. What are your opinions? How do you guys think? What do you guys think about this?
You know, this is a good question here, because I say that because when I was coming to child, right, rules and laws, they already established in the house if that parent is following the direction of God, Abraham, God, Isaac, that direction, right? So you follow that direction and you get that same rules, the same laws, then all of a sudden now I come a man. So now I get reunion, I marry my wife, now I have kids. That same faith and also that foundation should continue on through generation. So what I'm saying is that when the child bring in the world, is that it make it easier to say, hey, this is what we're going to do. This is what we're going to do according to the God of Abraham, Isaac, and God of Jacob. Now, I said that because due to the fact that when you look at that child and then you start to think, you start to wonder, what can I do to make it better? What can I do to make the child grow even to trust me, and not just me, trust everybody in that family, and so that they'll come stronger. And look at the foundation of it. I want to do it better than me, basically. I want to make sure they got that protection. Because you look at kids today and you see how the baby run around, and when you look at it and get too far away, they run back to the parents quickly. They attach. That's that trust they have. That's that strong bond there. So we have the strong bond of the spiritual. When we talk about the God of Abraham, God of Isaac, and God of Jacob, that's the same strong bond that we want to have between our young ones as well. That's how I look at that there.
That's a great
A lot
point.
of good points. I'd like to add to that as well. Like, when it comes to like the foundation, I feel like there's a good point you said about the having rules, established rules in the household. That really like sets a precedent. Across the how things are operate. Day to day, how people even at a job. What I'm saying, there's always rules and regulations for everything. And as a child, and you see it like your mother or your father have a dedication to, like, for example, I know Passover is around this time, like having on 11 out the house, all the bread products out the house, and you see your parents do that. you know most likely you will follow suit. Also, of course, I like to bring up about, like, even like when really early stages, before even the child can even speak or walk. When during pregnancy, the women, they had to be under like Sabbath friendly diets, just in case of the, just for the baby's sake. And I feel like even that it's a foundation, because like a lot of people might be, a whole bunch of stuff might be doing certain things, but no, from the baby conception to all the way to day 7 or whatever, they always have, especially for males, have a certain diet, not exposed to certain toxins, or even like bad environments in the household, like bad influence in the household. I feel like that's a good way for the Israelite parent to establish a foundation. You're not going to have somebody just drinking on Sabbath day, or just drinking just recklessly, or all the other drugs and vices and stuff like that. Most times it's older, especially in Israel. But yeah.
Now I see what y'all saying. I feel like you guys are talking a lot about making sure that, I feel like what Uncle Tom was saying is that kind of laying down the rules of how this household works. So like you said, laying a foundation, saying if you're gonna be here, you have to pray to the God of Israel. We have rules, we have things that you have to follow. And then Cameron also with them just leading by example. How you mentioned how during this time Passover, you get the unleavened out your house, your child sees you doing these things that are part of our culture and our tradition, and to them it becomes just how they live their life. It becomes natural to them, so that eventually they will adopt on those same practices. And also just kind of jumping off both of you guys are saying is what I think about is probably one of our past lessons on the idea of love. When you compare conditional love and unconditional love. To me, true love is that conditional love. It has those rules and regulations. So my child, if it's going to be in my house, if they want to say that they love me, they have to follow the conditions of that love. Whereas you see where, Christians or other philosophies will teach unconditional love, where it's, oh, no matter what you do, I'll always love you no matter what. And there can be no truth in that. And I feel like that's one thing that we always have to remember. So I think that what Uncle Thomas said, just setting those conditions is a very key and important factor. And then tying into what Cameron does is you got to make sure that you're living that life too, and that you're following those conditions. So that's just where I see it. I think it's a really interesting question, and I feel like you guys had some great takes on it. So I don't have anything else to say.
So, that question is very important, because due to the fact that we all, as we continue to grow, that child will take their first step. And you take a stairs and you put that baby on the stairs, you get nervous because you don't want that baby to fall back. So that right there, that building that bond right there to show that child you can do it, you go to the next one, you kind of give that very first teaching of trusting yourself to keep going forward and not to step the wrong way in your fall. And so basically, as that parents behind that child and you grooming that baby to be stronger, that will be the first thing. Because when they start walking, they get nervous, they'll fall. Next they know, they get up and scared to get up. But then that's where we had come in and said, you can do it. We can do this. And you keep working. So it's working. It's not to sit there and just sit back there and they do their own. No, they're putting their trust in us and the parent. And then we also got to put their trust back into them as well, that, hey, I'm here behind you.
It's like the support system. They have to know that if I'm going to fall, I have to know that my parents are there to catch me and help me get back up. So I definitely see that. It's how you start to build up that trust. So that I also think because I feel like this also kind of ties into what Cameron was talking about how we have to live that life that we are telling them to live. Because to me, if you want me to trust you, I have to believe in you. You have to be a trustworthy person. So I have, like, if I'm falling back or if I'm in danger, I have to be able to trust that the system that you created or that my parents have created is gonna work in order to catch me. That's where that trust comes in. So I think that's a great point. I think that's an awesome connection, Uncle Thomas. Okay. Did you have see the the gears turning, Cameron?
Oh no, I understand. I'm sorry.
All right. So I think we'll move on to the next slide, and I think this should be the first scripture. All right. Keeping the covenant, Genesis chapter 17, verses 9 to 12. So today we're going to switch it up, and we're going to do a bit of a popcorn reading. So let me just close my eyes and go, Cameron, you get to read. Woo!
Okay, thank you. Okay. And God said unto Abraham, thou shalt keep my covenant, therefore thou and thy seed after thee in their generations. This is my covenant, which ye will keep between me and you and thy seed after thee. Every man among you shall be circumcised, and ye shall circumcise the flesh of your foreskin, and it shall be a token of the covenant betwixt me and you. And he that is 8 days old shall be circumcised among you. Every man child in your generations, he that is born in the house or brought with money of any stranger shall not, which is not of thy seed.
If I can say something real quick, I think it's a great scripture, and I feel like there's a lot in the scripture. One thing that really just sticks out to me was verse 10. And here's a little story time about when I was at work. I think it was like it was in this month, so like earlier last week or something. So I'm at the checkout line. Some lady was talking about, oh, happy Easter. I'm like, oh, I don't celebrate Easter. And she was like, oh, do you believe in Jesus? And I was like, I believe he's my brother, but he's not my God. And she was like, oh, but Jesus is God, all that nonsense. And like, Jesus, he loves us all and all that, all that malarkey. But I guess what I want to say is the idea that Jesus came for everyone, that God loves everyone. You see how that idea is so embedded into their thoughts when it says right here that this covenant is what I'm making for your seed and that's it. No one else. So only Abraham and his seed, his lineage, that's the only people who have this covenant and have this privilege. That love doesn't expand for everyone. So my mind's going everywhere with this, but also kind of ties into how Jesus, he only came for us. But tying it back to our main focus is, I once again feel like that's the role of a parent. A parent has to be there for their children and their children only. You're putting them first, not the world first. Okay, you can't be a dad to everyone. That's the way I see it, and that's just one thing I got from that scripture. I don't know if anyone else had any takes they want to hear.
Yeah, I did. That first slide in number 9, when God established the covenant, when you look at it, he said to Abraham, keep that covenant to generation upon generation. So you can see here, he was saying, trust me. Basically, you look at it, I'm going to lay down a foundation, I'm going to lay down a covenant, not just to you, on generation upon more and more forever. So by doing this here, he's establishing, in order me to take care of you, in order me to protect you, you must follow these covenants here. Because you look at it, when he's saying generation upon generation, he already had a plan. This same thing, we look at ourselves when we have our young ones coming up. We have a plan for them. So in order to get to that point, we have to let them know first. Let's start the basic. And here's the basic where God, Abraham, God, Isaac is putting out. And by saying, hey, this is my covenant. So, I want you, this is my seed. Like I said, it's my generation. This is me. This is what we do is we continue going this direction. And basically, and we stick to that same rules, same covenant, the nation gets stronger and stronger because we're not waving left and waving to the right. We all focus on the exact same vision as God Israel wants to do on that part by keeping the covenant.
Yeah, I feel like there's a lot of beauty when it comes to the God of Israel and Israel, of course, because like our question before, how does a parent establish a foundation? I felt like this is the foundation. The covenant is the foundation of Israel. And as we see here, like Abraham, Israel from the seed of Abraham, he fathered many nations, of course, as we know today, he followed his, God's instructions. And, he had certain like prerequisites, some, I don't know, things that had to be done, has to be shown that, why you love me, is conditional love. There are conditions for the covenant to even have the covenant. You had to be circumcised. And, it doesn't matter. Also, another point, something I find interesting about it, in verse 12, man, I see the slides again. In verse 12, it was saying, any man in 8 days old shall be circumcised amongst you. Every man child in your generations, he that born in the house or born with money, or any stranger which is not in thy seed. So like when people say like, yeah, Israel just it's more than flesh, it's spirit. The covenant is a spiritual contract that we have with the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. And if you want to be in this household, it doesn't matter if you was born in this household or by some other way you came. If you saw a fire on that lesson and you decided to come, you had to be circumcised to keep this law as a male.
It's that sign of the promise. Because like we said, the love is conditional. It's the sign of the promise and your commitment. So yeah. And also I like how you said the covenant kind of represents the sorry, I'm spacing out, but I feel like you kind of talked about on how the covenant is like a sign of our foundation, or that's what it represents. It is our foundation. Because I also think about how we use the covenant and how it applies to our everyday lives as Israelites. It's our support system. When you're in trouble or you need help, you pray to the God of Israel. You have that link, that promise, and that connection to the covenant. By following those laws, statutes, and commandments, it helps us to overcome whatever challenge we may face. So it's a sturdy, strong, and reliable support system, and it's the best one for us. So I think this is a great point.
Yeah, everything is connected when it comes to Israel. Like almost everything. Like like from this, from Genesis, it helps build. You know what I'm saying? It builds like we both say. It's the foundation. Like you can't go from there to here. You gotta understand,
Mm-hmm.
what's the how God originally laid down the ground to build this great nation, that we are a part of. And like I said, it starts with obedience. And when it comes to parenthood, that's not saying like it's a blind obedience, but understanding why I understand what I need you to do. I feel like that's important as well. Communication is important as well. I got a
Mm-hmm.
visual told us you do this and this and this in plain speak, not double speak, not in riddles.
Don't make it
No
confused.
mysteries. No old man that speaks another language that you got to decipher. No, no, no. This is here. It is in whatever. You can get the same Bible in different languages, of course, but like and for us, it's English that we understand. And God visual, of course, gives us this instruction.
And even to add on to that point, to understand that full covenant and support system, you said like we can't be like jumping around and choosing pieces and parts of the Bible, because when you read the whole thing, our history, it's beautiful. Like I know some elders will talk about reading from Genesis to Revelations. You see how it's like same thing lining up perfectly, and you see that throughout the entire Bible. And it's a beautiful history, and you can't fully understand the covenant and fully understand its meaning if you're picking and choosing what laws you want to follow. You can't get that support if you're picking and choosing what things you want to do and what you like. Like that lady who came to me at Whole Foods, she don't have the covenant. She doesn't have the support system. When times are rough, the God of Israel ain't gonna be there for her because that's not the person she's calling on. She's calling on Jesus. That's who she's looking at. So once again, she doesn't understand that only God's chosen are gonna be able to understand this Bible and understand to how to communicate with their God. So
And it's so funny how you bring up that point. Um, I like they'll do Easter, of course. Most half the time, well, majority of the time, they don't know what is like the origins or why they do feast in the first place. To most of them, they just think it's an egg hunt and eat chocolate and
exactly,
go to church that day.
exactly,
Um,
they don't know nothing about it. They just do it. There's just like there's no like purpose or understanding of what the purpose of these actions are. If you as but like if you compare that to something like tabernacle, Passover, even just new moon and Sabbath, all of those, every action has a purpose and meaning behind it. So
and there's
Yeah, I
only
like
one. I'm sorry, go ahead, Uncle Thomas.
no,
I'm
I also
sorry.
like that. Put some fire in the chat because that was awesome. That comparison there. You put the fire in chat, put the sevens in there, let it go. So
Yeah, I
amen.
yes,
agree. I agree.
right.
Also, I just want to say, like, as you bring up that point, like, yeah, tabernacles, you got the tabernacles, you got the new moons and stuff we do. All of this reference could be traced back to the Bible, back to just one book. Imagine that. Like, they gotta go all these research, they gotta do all these scripts, go to different places to understand their Xmas, their Easter. It's all scattered. It's not even in the Bible that they somehow read, every Sunday. It's um it's not there. They gotta go to
Mhm.
other places. No, but we are the authorities in of this Bible, and we the only ones that do stuff that's from this Bible. Besides, the animals, so we don't do that anymore. But that's another lesson, another day.
That's so true. Once again, great points, you guys. I'm really enjoying this panel. So, like what Uncle Thomas said, put the fires in the chat and hit the like button. But we're gonna move on to the next slide. Father and son. So Cameron read the last one. Uncle Thomas, do you mind reading these ones?
Don't mind, that's wrong. Verse 24 it says, and Abraham was 90 years old and 9 when he was circumcised in the flesh of his foreskin. And Genesis chapter 21, verse 4, and Abraham circumcised his son Isaac, being 8 days old, as God has commanded him.
Now once again, I think as we discussed on is Abraham was told what the law was, what needed to be done, and he did it. And he now makes Isaac follow that. So once again, you can't be telling your kid, it's almost like you can't tell your kid, oh, don't smoke, smoking's bad. Then you go to the back and light one up. They can't do that. That's to me, that's a sign of weakness for one. And two, that kid won't have trust or any respect for you. Oh, Cameron, I think you said something.
I just said hypocrisy. The kings of hypocrisy.
It's hypocrisy.
Another point I like to add to that, that's how that's our word. Maybe we're backwards because they do things just for the kids. They do. Halloween is for the kids. Easter is for the kids. Xmas, I know it's pagan, but it's for the kids. Now, in Israel, like you said, how the parents, like I said, parents set the foundation, not the kids. Why are the kids going to set the foundation? You can buy them candy any day.
That's so true.
Why this particular day?
You-
They can't give you the answer. Like I said, the kings of hypocrisy. But as we said, like as I said a couple minutes ago, in the scripture, and Levi said, um, we Abraham, he circumcised himself. Yeah, he was almost 100 years old. That he was instructed to do this for him and his son, and and um and him and his sons, and he laid that foundation because God originally told him to, because he's the parent. But for the outsiders, it's like we will have to do this for the kids. That
And
just I don't know. That's backwards to me.
no, that's a really awesome connection. That one I didn't even make that one. And it also makes me think of like even just outside the holidays, it's like in their very traditions and cultures of like just today. Um, one thing I think about is how you see technology and how it's been growing and expanding. And some things, I like video games, I like TV, anime, all that nonsense. But one thing I'll see or see complaints about is parents getting mad about a TV show that their kid was found watching or a video game, and they're complaining about it. Oh, my child shouldn't have been watching this. But my thing is like, okay, why are we trying to close the video game? Why did you let your child have that video game in the first place? So and that's one thing that I see a lot about, and it's makes me think like how we see steadily. I feel like our children are being more exposed to more adult themes or contents way earlier than they should be. And that's where it really comes into the role of the parent to make sure that you're filtering out what they're watching and what they're consuming. And you have to be strong enough as a parent to do your job properly. If not, you're going to lose that child to the craziness of the outside world. And at the end of the day, you can't blame the person who made the video game. They're not the child's parents. You were. That was your responsibility. At least that's how I see it.
Yeah,
That's just
you're right about that, because you look at it very beginning in the first place that we have to put the rules there. It had to be down. If that don't, it's just like coming up. Don't touch the hot stove. Then you let them touch it. What happens? They'll learn quick. But at the same time, you don't want that. You want them to say, "Hey, let's go this way here first." And that trust. But just looking at Abraham, the age, and when God said, "Hey, circumcise yourself," but then that's trust. Is I'll do that. And then what you're saying is now is that, and I agree with you, Levi, because due to the fact that when you have that trust and that child look up to you, and then to protect that child from the other side of the world of what they're going through, the pagans and stuff and everything else. And that's what we focus on as building a strong nation there. And not just that, because you want that child to represent you as well as we get in our age and basically carry on to the next generations. And so that's the point there.
And then like to even add on that, because like I'm not a parent, but I do have younger siblings, and I gotta watch out and make sure I'm protecting them. And just from that, and how my parents have raised me, once you start to teach them and show them the right ways, eventually they'll carry that with them, so that when they are exposed to those maybe those more adult themes as they grew up, they know how to react. They know, okay, that's interesting, but that's not the path for me. I'm an Israelite, so I'm not going to follow what's being shown on TV. They're going to become more strong in who they are in themselves. And I feel like if you are setting that foundation, those rules, those boundaries, if you're saying no, don't touch the hot stove, then they are more likely to be able to become more responsible and independent on themselves, for themselves. You know what I mean? They'll need You always have to guide them because they'll already know what the right thing to do is.
Yeah. Also, another point I like to bring about Abraham. Like I'd like to see, like people may say that he was a friend of God, um, But I feel like, God of Israel was almost like, I feel like it was almost like a father figure to Abraham as well. Help him and guide him, and of course, offer him the covenant, the government, the covenant to for the promise and stuff like that, and guide him throughout his life, how to get his son and stuff like that. And I feel like there's like a certain like admiration, when it comes as a child perspective. When you see like your parent living that life, walking in that example, you know. And I feel like feel like Abraham had the similar way. I bet they all, of course, wasn't there, but I bet they had like a bunch of conversations about, a bunch of manner of things, because he was following the law when there wasn't, we didn't have Moses writing laws back in the day. But I feel like, walking in his example was, beneficial to him. That's all I have to
I
add.
think that's a really interesting
Yes, yes.
perspective because I, Abraham seeing how um, Abraham seeing how the God of Israel is handling things, how the God of Israel always has his back, almost like a parent. How no matter what trouble or situation is, the God of Israel acts as that rock and that foundation. Once again, that's the key word of tonight, foundation. But he's seeing all of that, and I feel like your point of him idolizing that or wanting to kind of emulate that with how he raised Isaac, and then maybe even that some of those aspects Isaac passed on to Jacob, and then so forth and so forth. So I feel like that's a really great point of him kind of fully learning the proper way to raise his child and just parenthood in general from God of Israel. It's a strong point. Is it
Okay.
Yep.
Can you get the next slide, please?
all right? Let's go. Panel question 2. All right. How can Israel influence your parenting style? That's cool because I think Cameron, you kind of just mentioned that with the Abraham thing. But once again, audience, fire sevens, I want everyone to answer all of these panel questions that we have tonight. Okay, put them in the chat, hit the like button, share, and subscribe. All right, so my panel tonight. What do you guys think about this question? Let's hear y'all's answers.
By looking at that question, how can Israel influence your parenting style? If you're already following the rules, and not just that, you're following the covenant, then what happens that make you more better. That make your parenting style even stronger. And I said that because the bond around the family, the Israelite family, and that's strong, so that you can see the energies in that. So when you look at other family and we all on the same page, same path, same direction, same vision as what the covenant was established, and we all do exactly the same thing, that's a lot of energy. That's strong right there. That's powerful right there. And so by saying that there, by being influenced in parenting style, that allows you to mold the child, mold this direction. Well, I'll go this right here. And the child will automatically take trust into that parent. And so, I'm looking at myself now, and I know I get an old age, but it looks good when you're in that old age, and then all of a sudden you look and wasn't influenced, but then you look at your seed that grow into a young woman, a young man, and you look at it, you're pleased and you're happy because you did what God, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob want you to do by following the covenant, by establishing that covenant, kept that established all the way down generation, yet down 4 generations, you see down there and you smile like, wow, that's good. Because I kept it like that. I focused and I stayed on track. Now look at the seed still blossoming and keeps continuing.
Yeah. That's all good points, Uncle Thomas. But I'd like to also bring up, even growing up, like you have friends, outside of Israel, and sometimes they could tell you a story how, like, and you can just imagine how different parent styles can be. Some people may be more like, allow the child to be more free, more open to other things. I also seen parents that rely on teachers, public school teachers, to parent the child, um, because of neglect. You know, but I feel like in Israel, especially like if you're part of a branch, there are other branch members you can lean on for for like support in other ways. Especially in Atlanta, we if people have like difficulty with certain things, there's always people willing to help. It takes a village, and also like Uncle Thomas said, it it makes you stronger. Like with Israel, you learn to be more confident about yourself, more about your faith. Because as a parent, you should know why you're doing what you're doing right now. And some parents, even after having kids, it's kind of they don't know what to do or how to even parent a kid. But I feel like even using example, just putting examples in the Bible, just showing how how to nurture a child, through this culture, um, and help them grow up, with positive thinking, positive influences. And another point I'd like to bring up, I'm sorry, how Mike, but there like nowadays there's like people will have a kid, right? And they'll say like, "This is my LeBron James project," or "This is my Mbappe project for my soccer guys." And in a way, they're like living through their child, just in athletics, just so they can be successful in athletics, and nothing much, or some parents be just involved in trying to get them famous so they can get out their own situation, unspoiling the children for just to get out their own situation. So um in Israel, you want to see none of that. You want to see a LeBron project, have him, have your child working to the bone to be a good basketball player or soccer player. Let's just have him like a good Israelite man, strong Israelite man that's strong in his own self, in his own identity, and then everything else is extra.
It's an Israelite Man project.
Mhm.
I think you guys had some great points, and I kind of also feel like Israel kind of, like I said, sets the basis for building a strong and reliable household. And one thing that I think about is we have different stories and examples within the Bible about how to be a good parent, but also in just the very concept of how we treat our fellow brother. And I feel like is a good example of how you want to help to raise your child by just showing them that kind of love and that compassion. And then, oh my God, I'm sorry, but I just feel like it's kind of difficult for me to explain, but I think Israel has a lot of unique ways to show one how to parent. But at the same time, I don't feel like just because you're an Israelite, it means parenting is going to be easy, because there are examples where you even have priests who had children, or although they were good priests, they were always successful parents. So I feel like you have to be very careful and meticulous in how you are interpreting these lessons and how you're raising that child to be. I feel like you guys are already making good points. One thing, using that resources through the village and through the family that you have, that community to help, by reaching out and making a place where your child feels like they're comfortable and can go talk to Uncle Thomas about something, or go talk to their auntie about something, making that comfortable environment for them to just be free to grow and learn. And also, I feel like getting them involved or keeping them involved with this culture is a great way to make sure that you're raising the proper Israelite child. Those are just some thoughts that came to mind. I feel like we already kind of mentioned how Abraham, how he was another great, how he kind of got his influence from just watching the God of Israel. And I feel like we as Israelites can do that same thing by understanding the connection between the God of Israel and his children, and how that should emulate our connection between us and our child. So that's just some few things that came to mind. Um, I know if you had any other comments.
No, not at the moment.
All right, all right. We'll go on to the next slide then. Make sure you enter your answers in the comments chat. Make sure you're doing that, and hit the like and subscribe button. Just gonna remind y'all again. Hannah's vow. So I don't mind reading this one. 1 Samuel chapter 1, verse 11. And she vowed a vow and said, O Lord of hosts, if thou wilt indeed look on the affliction of thine handmaid, and remember me, and not forget thine handmaid, but will give unto thine handmaid a man child, then I will give him unto the Lord all the days of his life, and there shall no razor come upon his head. So this is obviously Hannah's vow, her promise to the God of Israel, that if he gives her a child, she will make sure that this child walks the path of a Nazareth, and she's giving back to the God of Israel, making sure that this child's life will be dedicated to the Lord. So verse 22 reads, "But Hannah went not up, for she said unto her husband, I will not go up until the child be weaned, and then I will bring him, that he may appear before the Lord and there abide forever." So she's going to make sure to properly raise and wean that child, because obviously it's a newborn baby. And I feel like the mother's role in raising a child is very, very important. That is something you can't overlook. My mom says this all the time: mothers are the first teachers. So I feel like this is a very important step. So it'd be really nice if we could get some of the ladies' takes on this panel too. But just from what I know and what I've heard, the knowledge that I've accumulated, I know that it's going to be very important that you want a strong and powerful, strong Israelite woman to help teach this child and help set him on that right, straight, and narrow path, even at a young age, because you know that the child is going to be very susceptible to all kinds of spirits, and that Israelite mother has to be there to protect and make sure that that child is going to be the perfect child that needs to be, so that it can grow up to be a strong Israelite man. That's just my thoughts on this. I want to hear the rest of my panel's thoughts and the chats too. So I'll let y'all go ahead.
I mean, that's a good point, because due to the fact that when you look at your mom and she sits there and making sure you go to the right directions, she bathed you, she clothed you, she did everything. So now when you get the instruction from God of Israel, but then now you really have to pay attention for sure. You really have to to make sure the child goes that direction. And this by checking things out, by looking at you, Levi. When you look at you and your sisters and brothers, you can see it. Whereas that the mother has to really mold perfect going into directions. And so on the other side, so when I saying that, because due to the fact that if you look at the other side that is not part of the nation, they can look at it different. You want them to look at, wow, who are they? Not even saying anything. Just by looking at character, the way we walk, the way we move, the way we speak, what we talk, the way our mothers have trained us and taught us to, right? So in the nation, in Israelite nationwide, where ministry, God, Israel has blessed our ladies, bless the mothers to, wean us up, grade us up strong, everything else, and actually doing the teaching, because like you say, they are the first teaching us everything that's continuing going. Without them, we wouldn't be here anyway. So we love our mothers, we continue going forward.
Also, another point I'd like to say, great points, of course. As far, I like to bring it back to like, how trust is, with your, as a child and as a parent, as for context, for people who don't know, of course, Hannah wasn't able to have a child, and she begged and pleaded for a while to have a child, and just the strength and conviction you need to have. It's like, you know what, I'll have a kid, but I'll give it up to the God of Israel to serve him. I felt like that's way better than any LeBron or Mbappe project that could be. It's really humble and noble. About that sentiment. And also like I feel like being Nazareth is no easy task. You can't eat a lot of things. Of course, it's different from back then. They don't want a lot of sneak a bunch of stuff back then, or they didn't have like a ingredient list of what's in a jar of peanut butter or jelly or whatever. But also like not cutting the hair and certain things. Like there's a lot of like things that were out there that could have made him unclean and just end the Nazarite, but no, she was so strong willed, so much willed. That reminds me of of our mothers that we do have in Israel today. That I'm not surprised of how it ended, because I don't know, it's Israelite women, they're really fierce and fiery.
To even jump off that, you kind of see how that faith and that strong will even passed on to Samuel to the point where when Israel's doing wrong, he's out here getting upset on the God of Israel's behalf. So I feel like that was just a really good point. Anyone else want to add a comment?
Also, like when it comes to Hannah, of course, her faith is really admirable. I have to say that's all.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And you know what? That makes me think, because once again, the faith a parent has to have, that's our whole focus of this entire message, this entire panel tonight. Hannah's own faith in the God of Israel, to the point where she was on her knees crying, where words could not describe the passion within her heart. And as we saw, that brought about Samuel, who turned out to be a great Israelite man and a great prophet. And once again, I feel like that faith, I feel like how we were talking about how, like we say, and even I just mentioned, once again, the actions that you take are going to be passed down to your children. So I feel like Hannah's faith in the God of Israel was passed on to Samuel. And I feel like that's something a lot of Israelite parents, not even just the mother, but the father too, you want to make sure you're striving for that, because the faith you have in the God of Israel will reflect in the faith your child's going to have in you to help raise them and protect them, and that child's own faith in the God of Israel. If the child sees you struggling and you praying to the God of Israel and those prayers being answered in your times of need, that child's going to remember, well, oh, I'm in a tough spot, but hey, if the God of Israel could have helped my mom out of that situation, I don't understand why he can't help me either. You know what I mean? And God of Israel is the one who gave me this amazing support system, gave me this family, gave me access to all these tools. Let me use them, let me rely on them, and let me lean on them to get around every obstacle comes my way. So once again, great point. Let me get some fires and sevens in the chat for this awesome panel.
Amen. Amen.
Yeah, put some sevens in there because you brought it hot there, Levi. It was hot. It was fire there. Bring it on.
Also, another thing I like to add as well. You got me also thinking about like um, a- even like as an Israelite, a lot of things go on without being asked for. Not often. We ask for God, can you please wake me up this morning, or allow me to go to sleep peacefully. Not often. And even like as our parents, like I'm like not often that you ask your mother, hey, can you make me dinner today, or can you make sure the light bill is paid today, or hey mom or dad, can you make sure the internet is working so I can record, be part of Friday night lessons, or watch a Friday night lesson. Hannah, God originally didn't instruct Hannah to rent her clothes and be fall on her knees and fast and pray for a child. No one asked that, and no one asked her to give her child up to be a Nazarite, to be a soul servant for the God of Israel. But Samuel, reading his story, he was needed. He was needed in a lot of those in a lot of future events, in the Bible, of course. Um, he was needed, but like I said, God usually didn't, send an angel down there, say, "Hey, I need you to do this to get a child." No. And I feel like that makes it even more commendable what you did. Like I said, it wasn't asked for it, and I experienced, when I wash dishes or pay a bill when no one asks me, I feel like there's more of a, oh wow, I get why you did that. I know Uncle Thomas had those experiences with his children.
That sense of gratitude, yeah.
Yeah.
So once again, I feel like it's a great, because I feel like Hannah's just a textbook example of our relationship with the God of Israel, where you praying to him is also going to, like, well, let me rephrase that. Like how you mentioned, God of Israel does so much for us, seen and unseen. And Hannah understands the God of Israel in her might, and she knows that when she's in this spot, she can rely on the God of Israel as long as she's putting all her heart and soul into that. But she also understands that it's a give and take relationship. Okay, like we said, this love is conditional. There are conditions to that love. I can't say I love my parents and ask them for stuff like a new car and then go crash that new car carelessly because I was doing something I wasn't supposed to. I have to treat that car with care. I have to show them that I'm going to use the gifts, the talents, and the opportunity that you gave me to the best of its ability. And I feel like Hannah is once again a great example of that, because she's asking for this child, and she gets this child, and she says, I'm going to make sure that this child is raised right, so that when it's weaned, it will be given to you, O Lord, and that he can become the great Israelite man he can be in your name. And I feel like that's just, like I said, textbook example of what we have to do as Israelites, and Israelite parents should be striving for as well. So once again, you guys are cooking tonight. Love this panel. All right. I think we're good to move on to the next slide. Panel question number 3. What is the importance of trust between the parent and child? Ooh, we've been talking about this all day, but let's focus on it. Let's really dive into it. Panel, what do you guys think?
Well, um, importance of trust. I feel like it's it's almost like the most important thing. That's like the basis of the relationship. There's always a correlation between like people in the Bible, between that, how high or what they do and their, and and how much faith they had in the world. Like example, like Abraham and Hannah. I feel like those are prime examples of that correlation of what good can happen to you if you put your trust in the Lord. And not even like in time of trouble, like not like, oh, I don't need these $5. God, would you please bless me? No, no, no. Even like in the good times. That's why we have the feast dedication, prosperity feast when we get a job, to thank the God of Israel. Um, you know, and of course, do his laws, of course, and it builds a trust. Um, and even like prayer programs, with somebody or personal or even as a group. I feel like building that trust and how far you can go. You know what I'm saying? It's just important. Just in overall. But, that's all.
Oh, that's true. I feel what you're saying. And I also kind of feel it kind of goes both ways. I think I mentioned this in one of my previous messages, where the God of Israel, you trust in him, but he's also trusting in you. He has your faith in you as the child to do what's right. And so it's kind of like this cycle where you guys are both trusting in each other to form that bond in that relationship. Because at the end of the day, that's what love is. If we're really trying to be real about it, it's a trust. I trust you, you trust me. And as that you guys are doing what you're saying y'all doing, that trust builds and that love is able to grow and foster. So I think when it comes in terms of parenting, it's that child is trusting that the parent's going to be able to provide and take care of them. I think that's just what it is. I think the parents trusting, and I feel like the parents trusting that, okay, I'm providing for you, I'm caring for you, and I trust that this will lead to you growing into a person who can care and provide for your own family and go on to I guess I don't want to overstep boundaries, but I guess kind of bring honor to my name. You know what I mean? Bring that glory and pride back to my name by doing what's right and following the laws that I set and the laws that I put in place to help you grow up. So that's the way I see it, where it's that parent is putting in that trust in that child, and that child is putting in that trust to the parent to take care of them and watch over them. Uncle Thomas?
I mean, that's a good point. Both of y'all, I'm listening to both of y'all, and you got to look at it's a balance when you come down to trust. And I said that because let's look at one side. If you did not follow the covenant, you did not follow the laws, the rules, then what happens that trust between both the parents and the child will be unequal, because now we got a little bit of lag and hesitation there, right? But then you bring the rules and laws at the beginning in a good, positive way by following the God of Israel instructions, it makes it easier and more better. Now, is it going to be perfect? No, because due to the fact that we're building the trust, because as a parent, the parent has been out there. We have seen way before than the child, and the child don't know what's out there yet. So you look at you look at front, the forward, then you got to make sure this is established, so I won't have my child go through the exact same thing that I did. So that trust. So once they see that, so when you look at the scripture, and for example, when you talk about Hannah and she listen to everything that God put out, and the same thing by praying. But then that child, like you said, Levi, go back, but that child sit back there and watch their parents, their father, their dad, their mother, right, going through praying, then they'll realize it while it's working. So that trust start to build stronger because due to the fact that eventually that child will come adult as well. And so that is a balance there because due to the fact that now I have a child that was a baby. So now the baby's now is growing to a woman or man, right? So now the trust really had to be there because now say, hey, you don't do this because you know why. Well, of course, they know that because we teach them, we have trained them perfect to be that direction. Now, if we, on the other hand, did not listen, then that's where we get all the not equal. So, for example, that's not working together. So the key thing is that we want to work together as a team in the family. We want to continue going forward. We want that child to trust. So, for example, if I say, hey, Dad, can I borrow the car? Okay. Now, it's first time getting the car. I'm like, borrow the car. Let me see this here. So now by looking at the character of the child, and I say, yes, you go head on, be back at a certain time. Now, when the child comes back a certain time on time, the trust is there. But then when it come back late, now you kind of like, okay, here we go. Now, what I did wrong, to break that trust or what's going on. So basically, when I look at the whole entire trust of balance, and you can look at that is that child is my seed, our seed basically, if we're married, based on the child, that's our seed. We got to protect that child. Once that child felt that protection, feel that love and everything else around it, it'd be no problem at all.
And
Also,
even add, no, go ahead, Cameron.
Yeah. Oh, you're gonna answer this fine. I can say that.
Oh, all right. I just had a quick point, even adding on to that. I think of like an example specifically regarding to me. I remember back in middle school, that's when I first got my laptop and I had to make sure I was doing my laptop for homework. But sometimes it's easy to get distracted. So I'll be on video games and doing stuff when I'm not supposed to. And because of that, now I have restrictions on the laptop. And those restrictions make it harder when I have to do an assignment because now I got to ask my mom, can I get on the laptop? And I only have a set sort of time to get this done. And you don't get a lot of free time to yourself. So it's like making sure that you are trustworthy and that you're keeping to what you're supposed to be doing. That will allow for more leniency and you're going to get those, I want to say more freedoms. And as you're kind of like, being trusted to handle more responsibilities. And like I said, that's just about a part growing up where you have to, I feel like in a way when it comes to growing up, you're going to get exposed into a taste of more freedom, but with that freedom, it comes with more responsibility. So you have to be prepared to handle that. Like freedom isn't just doing whatever you want. There's a responsibility that comes with that. And I feel like that parent has to make sure that as you're growing up and as you're going to be exposed to these more freedoms, you have the ability to be responsible with those freedoms and do the right thing. So as I was starting to follow my rules that are set, oh, hey, you did what you're supposed to do. Here, have some extra free time on the laptop. Oh, hey, he's keeping up with his classes. I don't have to monitor him as much. As long as you're getting it done, you can be on the laptop anytime you feel like it, as long as you're getting the work done. So that's what's, I feel like is an example of just the positive form of parenting where helping to build that trust. And sometimes, you gotta punish the child if they're not following the rules, but you're still allowing them to grow and learn what they're supposed to do and what they're not supposed to do. Cameron, I know you had a point that you wanted to add.
Yes, I was about to say that God of Israel, He made this work. He gave us the breath of life. He gave man the decisions. The ability to make these decisions. We don't like. I know a lot of animals have, maybe certain animals have different personalities, but for the most part, they follow their instincts. They migrate when they're supposed to migrate. They 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 do things with depending on the seasons and depending on what time, time and place. But for us humans, we have the ability of choice as well. And I feel like God of Israel could have easily made us to, just follow his every commandment, despite us messing up multiple times. But I feel like that's the kind of love he has for us to allow us to make mistakes as flesh and bone. Not like a robot, quote unquote. But what I'm saying, like not like a drone or anything like that. But
And I think what you said, I feel like the love, by having us have that freedom of choice, the love kind of becomes almost more genuine and more real. Like, because I even think about how we talk about the God of Israel he don't love everyone. And I feel like so I'm just starting thinking like I feel like he really admires that special kind of love. You know what I mean? He wants the very best kind of love. So he can't allow everyone into this family. He wants the best, the very best of the best. And I feel like he really appreciates that true love that I didn't have to tell you to do this. You did it because it was already in your heart. And I feel like that's something that he just values the most. So I feel like you have make a great point with that.
Yeah, yeah, and there's always like a certain consistent characteristics, of the men and women that God originally aligned himself with throughout the Bible. You know, just the humility is one of those, and I feel like when it comes to trust between the child and parent, humility is also important. Because no one, because when people become arrogant and callous in their decisions. Um, yeah, it'd be easy to, lose trust. Like I can't remember exactly what the person is, but there was like a warrior or a king or something like that. They were like sick, and someone told them to wash in the rivers or wash in some waters. I can't remember the top of my head, but
Is this I'm trying to think. I feel like I know what you're talking about. Um was this was it Peter? Was this when Second Testament, I think it was in the Second Testament when someone came to Peter and it was like from outside. I
yeah,
can't
he wasn't like an Israelite. He came to them because he needed
yeah,
to help them,
yeah,
and he didn't thought it was it was like then nothing else. Like, no, just that simple as that. Just wash in the waters and do this and that.
yeah.
And he thought, because he's a king, it's supposed to be this and that. But no, you don't gotta stand on dragon. And sometimes you gotta be humble. Even like Moses, like you tell like imagine you in the fire in the wall and someone told you, yeah, you lift up this staff and you say these words, a whole body of water gonna split in half. Most people are not gonna, not gonna
Believe.
believe you, but he did, because like I don't go like if I go against if I stand on the on in the Atlantic Ocean, and I do that, I'm gonna look like maybe look like an idiot, but for some, but no, he had the faith, he had the trust in the God of Israel, so they both trusted each other. Moses, even David, he had five smooth stones and killed a killed a Goliath. He didn't need armor. Most people like, yo, what is he doing? But no, he had the faith. And that
Mhm.
goes for both ways, like we said.
That's so true. And it was just that faith and not even having to be told um what to do. It was just see how he was raised. It was definitely a reflection of think of his father Jesse and his family and his support structure of um no matter what situation you're in, the God of Israel has your back. And I feel like that's something we definitely want to instill in our own Israelite children, that the God of Israel always has your back the same way I do as your parent. Those are great points and great examples, Cameron. Let's get some fires in the chat for that one. Make sure you like and subscribe. All right. So, any other comments? If not, we're going to move on to the next panel of the night. All right. Gideon requested a miracle. Judges chapter 6 verses 36 to 40. I like the scripture a lot. I guess we'll jump on over back to Cameron. Would you like to read for us?
Sure thing. And Gideon said unto God, if thou wilt save Israel by my hand, as thou hast said, behold, I will put a fleece of wool in the floor, and if the dew be on the fleece only, it it be dry upon all the earth beside. And then shall I know that thou wilt save Israel by mine hand, as thou hast said. And it was so, for he rose up early on the morrow and thrust the fleece together and wrinkled a ring the dew out of the fleece, a bowl full of water. And Gideon said unto God, let not thine anger be hot against me. I will speak but this once. Let me prove, I pray thee, but this once with the fleece. Let it snow, let it now be dry, only upon the fleece and upon all the ground let there be dew. And God did so that night, for it was dry upon the fleece only, and there was dew all on the ground. So in this one, just as a brief context, Gideon was enslaved by the Midianites at that time, and God originally told him that he would destroy the Midianites for them. And they were saying how like there was enough Midianites as there was grains of sand. You know, there was a lot of them, and there wasn't a lot of Israelites at the time. I believe there was like only like 300 or so men that they had at the time, just off the top of my head. And um, yeah, and got Gideon, asked God a visual, can you perform this miracle for me, just so I know that I will um, will win this fight, and God really did so. Like it said, like we said, establishing that trust, God of Israel, performed that miracle for Gideon just to establish this trust. Like, yes, I got you. Like Levi said, as an Israelite, why don't you follow all the statutes and commandments? God of Israel will have your back.
And to even jump off from that, I think Gideon is a very good example. And the reason why I always like the scripture is because we always talk about, David and Moses, people like that. But like Gideon kind of shows um the more human aspect of it. Because, not everyone's going to be David and be like, see, like the 7 foot tall giant and be like, I'm going to kick your butt with some rocks in a, in a slingshot. Not everyone's going to be like that. But Gideon, he kind of shows, he's like, okay, you're giving me this massive task to take on. I don't understand how we're gonna beat the Midianites, this advanced army, when Israel is in a state where we're living in caves. I don't understand how that's possible. So, God of Israel, I want you to make me understand. He's testing that support system, and I feel like this is just a great example of that own human response. And to even go further, it's gonna be what a child does when they're starting off young. They're gonna be. I see it as a child testing that and making sure that their parent has them is gonna protect them no matter what. I think of down here in ATO we have our Auntie Angel and little Jonathan, and I think of Jonathan and like I know sometimes he'll be doing things where like he'll take a little balled up napkin and throw it and expect someone to pick it up for him or something like that, or maybe he'll try to fall over and expect someone to catch him or something like that. And it's almost like I kind of think of that when I think of this. It's making sure that that family, that support structure, my mom, my cousins, my brother, he's gonna have my back no matter what. He'd be playing a little bit too much, I'm not gonna lie, but that's just one way I kind of connect to it, and that's just one way I see it, where it's a baby making sure that I'm going into this really dangerous situation. God of Israel, please, I'm begging you, can you show me some miracle? Can you let me know that it's gonna be all right? And I really empathize with that and that human feeling of that. So that's just one thing I kind of see here, and I feel like it's just an excellent example of trust. I don't know. Any other comments, Uncle
No, that's
Tom?
that's that's a perfect example there. Just by looking at myself coming up, you're going through some hard stuff, and then you get that butterfly in your stomach, and then you start talking to, God of Israel, like, hey, you got me, you help me out here. And so you focus that trust there, and then you are trying to get that second trust in, right, to make sure, but he's there, God already has already, and we're there doubting ourselves, basically, because he raises up anyway. And so the key thing is that's when that faith really comes in, say, hey, he's here. I asked for a miracle. It's done. And so by doing that, best we go keep on going forward, because we are, his special chosen, his chosen one. So basically going to make sure, because he is our father. So he's going to make sure we don't fall at all. That's it right there.
Yeah, when it comes to your life, there's never hurt to, double check, and of course, like after that one check, I feel like that was with you for life. If you yourself, and I feel like when I read Gideon, like you said, Levi, he's not like David or Moses. Like he wasn't as big as a leader as them, in my opinion. You know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like I see him almost like, I feel like he's like one of the more relatable
Like I
people.
see, like yeah. No, let me let you cook. I'm bad, but yeah, I
But
just
yeah, I feel like he's more relatable. It's almost like after I read that the first time, years ago, I'm like, wow, that's what I could do. I never did it, but I'm just saying, like, I feel like that's something like I can probably, it it seemed like he seemed like because I feel like he was like a teenager or something like that when this was
he was
going on.
he was definitely like
Yeah,
a young man. Yeah,
he was like young man, and even his father wasn't like with him. He was with the other people, other Israelites that were doing wrong um, at that time.
and then
But go ahead.
even jump off because like I love how when I'm reading Gideon, like if this was ever to be made by a movie by Israel, by me specifically, I'm playing, but the way I see it, it's like Gideon, he kind of starts off as unsure of his own abilities as a leader, but as the story is going on, he's gaining more and more confidence. So like he's a little timid at first. He's like, I don't know, is this gonna work? But then you get to the point where he's out here smashing the altars and acting like talking to all these Israelites. Well, what you gonna do about it? I'm doing what my God told me to do. You know what I mean? He's unapologetically him and unapologetically an Israelite to the very end. And he's just slowly coming out of that shell. And to me, that's one, I relate to that a lot, and that's why I think he's a really great story, a really great person to read, you know?
Yeah,
And
and
then
like his dad saying, like, yeah, you got a point with that. Like all the all the people like, oh, why you doing this? Yeah, you got a point. You're not wrong.
that's exactly. And then like I feel like even tying it to this lesson, it's the perfect example of how you would want to raise your Israelite child. They may be a little bit unsure at first, but as you show them those times where you're going to be there for them, you're going to have their back, they're going to grow up knowing that, hey, my support structure works. I know that no matter what happens, I got my family with me, I got my God with me, and that confidence is going to build. So they're going to be going out to try new things. They're going to want to go and be more successful, to take those risks, to take on new challenges, and they're going to do it with a smile on their face, constantly praising and giving thanks to their God. So that's just one thing, and why I think this is a really great example. So definitely. And we had any more comments, questions? Chat, make sure you're putting your comments in the comment section, of course, and you're hitting the like and subscribe button. We really appreciate that. So come on, let's burn down the chat.
Oh, I have a comment.
All right.
Um, yeah. This is one quote I kind of made up. I felt like it follows through, especially exclusive for Gideon. Lean not on your own understanding, right? But you need a chance to lean on something. You need a chance uh, to prove to your parent, to prove to someone who's teaching you, your mentor or whatever, that yes, I did learn a lesson. Yes, I do trust you. I do. Um, I did follow I did listen. I listened, mom. I listened, dad. You know, um, I feel like, especially like when it comes to Gideon, when it comes to Samuel, when it comes to Abraham, you know, and like we said, like um, having to get the choice and choosing the God of Israel over others is the ultimate show of love. Choosing your parents, choosing following your parents' foundation, choosing your parents to follow the rules and stuff. It's much more than money. It's much sweeter than gold. You know, and I feel like it trust with the currency that probably give you more trust. Like they'll probably earn you more trust by doing that, by choosing. You know, yes, I may miss out on a I don't know, basketball game or a concert I want to go to, but today's new moon, I need to go to the service.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Like,
um,
put in the God of Israel first. Yeah.
yeah, putting God as your first.
And I really like the quote that you said where it's like, make sure to have something to lean on. I feel like that's a really powerful quote. And I feel like it's something to encourage. I feel like this is definitely encourage not just our Israelites in general, but even our young folk. Make sure to not be afraid to lean on something. Your parents got you, and I feel like if you understand that you're not in this alone, it's really gonna help you out in the road. So I feel like that's a really powerful quote. So you're definitely cooking. So good job, Cameron. I respect that, Cameron. That's
I made
awesome.
I put them to laugh myself.
That's a powerful quote right there. Got to get some fires in the chat for that one.
Amen.
Great. Any other comments though? If not, we're gonna hit up the next slide. Abraham's faith in the Lord, part 1, and I'll go ahead and read this. Genesis chapter 22, verse 1 to 5. And it came to pass after these things that God did tempt Abraham and said to him, Abraham, and he said, Behold, here I am. And he said, Take now thy son, thine only son Isaac, whom thou lovest, and get thee into the land of Moriah, and offer him there for a burnt offering upon one of the mountains which I tell thee of. And Abraham rose up early in the morning, and saddled his ass, and took two of his young men with him, and Isaac his son, and clave the wood for the burnt offering, and rose up and went unto the place of which God had told him. Then on the third day Abraham lifted his eyes and saw the place afar off. And Abraham said unto his young men, Abide ye here with the ass, and I and the lad will go yonder and worship, and come again to you. So this is where Abraham is being told that he has to go and sacrifice Isaac. And one word that I really want to point out is the idea of tempting or testing. I think this is a true test of Abraham's faith in his God, and just a perfect example of having faith in the parent. We do run a little short on time, but I still want to hear what you guys think about this so far.
That's a test that will come to all of us. Because if you look at the prime example, when God tests Abraham on this here, that's a strong one. That, when you are told to go out and take your son, and and he following direction what he's saying. So if you look at God telling you exactly, hey, this is what I want you to do. Well, we kind of not want to talk back. We just go ahead and do what he got to do. In this case here, he watching and say, okay, let's see how much he really loves me. So by doing that, so when he realizes that he's going to continue going through it, that's when he probably said, okay, stop, you good, perfect. So I don't want to you go forward. I want to see how strong bond you got with me and the child, and also with God. So God was pleased, basically. And so by the flip side of that, by looking at this here, same as a parent, you test your loved ones to do things and see what happens. And when they come back, and then you can stop because you don't want to go no further because they're going to listen to you regardless. That shows you that they're really taking your word too personal, that what they're going to do, they're going to say what you say do. So that's where I look at it and say, yes, you got it. Now you trust. So now I can tell you certain things that you can do and not to do, and you won't do it. And so this way you can look at it that you do have a strong seed coming up, because eventually they will articulate and pass it on down next generation. So that's a good prime example. I always did like looking at that because I look at it from the beginning of what trust that really he asked to do, told him the task to do, and he was trying to go ahead and do the task, but God stopped him. So the exact same thing with us. When we take a task and tell our kids to do something, and we know the outcome already, but we're not going to go further and go forward. It is our idea we're going to see is that are they going to listen or not listen? And that's the whole key thing I look at there is by are you listening to exactly what I'm saying, and then listen to the love that I'm also giving you at the same time. That's what I got there, bro.
So true. I like that point a lot, Uncle Thomas. That's great.
Yeah.
Cameron, did you have anything you want to add?
No, Uncle Tom's got most of the good points. But yeah, like tempting is a good. I feel like also another thing about the Bible. A lot of the words every word have a purpose. You know, in it to help you interpret the events. Through Israelite eyes, the word tempt, of course, means to test. So God originally was testing him on his faith, and and seeing if God of Israel will choose God of Israel on top, or choose the covenant, or the God of Israel's laws or God of Israel's word above all else.
I think it also kind of shows Abraham's trust in the God of Israel, that
Hmm.
despite being given this heavy task, that the God of Israel is a man that cares about him and his family, and that somehow, some way, things will work out. So I think that's also another aspect to that.
Great
Um,
point. Great point.
let's go ahead and read the next slide real quick, and then we'll go a little bit deeper into it. Part 2. And Abraham took the wood of the burnt offering and laid it upon Isaac his son, and he took the fire in his hand and the knife, and they went both of them together. And Isaac spake unto Abraham his father, and said, My father. And he said, Here am my son, here I am, my son. And he said, Behold the fire and the wood, but where is the lamb for a burnt offering? And Abraham said, My son, God will provide himself a lamb for a burnt offering. So they went both of them together. And they came to the place which God had told him of, and Abraham built an altar there, and laid the wood in order, and bound Isaac his son, and laid him on the altar upon the wood. And Abraham stretched forth his hands, and took the knife to slay his son. So
What a
this is right here
cliffhanger.
is heavy stuff. Cameron?
I said, what a cliffhanger. That's all.
This is heavy stuff, but I still feels like it ties back to what we were saying, where that trust has to be there. And one way I kind of think of it kind of simulating how the real world is going to be. I think about how sometimes my parents, when I was growing up, give me rules to follow. Say you can go outside, but make sure you're in by street light because of the all kinds of dangers could be out there in the world, even in your own backyard. So following those rules and staying into that guideline just helps you to build that trust that hey, you're gonna do what needs to be done. And I feel like in this way, Abraham has to show his trust to the God of Israel and build that trust. So even through this hard and difficult task of even offering up his own son, I feel like by showing that you have that faith and trust in the God of Israel, that somehow in some way the God of Israel will provide a way for you, a way out of this situation. I feel like having that mindset is what helped Abraham really get through that.
And
Cameron,
that's a good point, because you look at, if you in a situation, you're in a corner, and you're in that corner, and all of a sudden you think it's all else. Well, it's not. You got to stay really focused on what you've been given to do, and you go forward, because due to the fact that when that instruction, especially come from God Israel, and you already know He loves you conditionally, everything else, you know that, and strong bond. Well, you continue on doing what you're doing, because He already know what, again, the outcome in the back end, what's going to happen, and by also it's a test. But at the same time, you look on today, that same test we're giving us is as we continue growing. And is it going to be easy all the time? No, it's not. But that's where that trust and that faith and everything come into play. And that's where the parents has molded us to be, to go forward, because you look at it as our family within the nation. And that's when we bond up more stronger, and anything else to support each other to go forward,
Mhm.
to be strong there. And because God has already blessed us already to move forward. And so by doing that, that faith is real strong. That trust is there. That discipline is there. And we got to stay there and stay focused on that one. Because due to the fact that we don't want to lean to the left or lean to the right. And basically, you can sit there and say, I always say this, my favorite one, the point man of the family, the point man of what you're doing, the point man of your group or at your work. As long as you keep on going, using the same positive, using God Israel covenant, and continue going forward that direction.
So true. Cameron?
No, I don't got much to say at this moment.
That's fine. That's fine. Uncle Thomas, he's cooking tonight, so
I'll let it be. I'll let it be. I'll let it be. Out of restraints.
all right, all right. I think we're good to head on to the next slide. Oh, we're gonna go ahead down to the conclusion because I think we get what happens here. Just a short summary though. Abraham, he's about to slay his son, follow through with what the God of Israel
Mhm.
told him to. And the God of Israel rewards his trust by presenting a ram for them to offer up instead. And Isaac is saved. So once again, It highlights that trust that Abraham had to have. And even in the as an Israelite parent, we have to have. I feel like an Israelite parent has to have faith in their God, and because of course what Uncle Tom said, there's gonna be tough times where even the parent may not always make the best decision or best calls, but I feel like that parent has to understand that you have the lives of your family, you have the lives of those children at stake, and you need to rely on your strength being the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, no matter what. So I feel like yeah, I feel like that's one thing I got away from this whole story. But moving on to the next slide so we can get to the conclusion. Last question of the night. What roles do parents have in building a nation? So, not a lot of time left, but still, I want to hear what do you guys think?
I
You
feel
know,
like go ahead.
go ahead,
Go ahead,
Kim.
Thomas. It's fine.
You know, the roles of building a nation, that comes the very beginning of it. You know, when you're looking at the child and they're first born, and you look at that. So now you got to put yourself in a situation is that we are in the nation. We want to build that nation strong as possible, you know. And so by doing that, we raise the child up towards a nation rules toward God's real direction. And so what I'm saying is that as we continue on and look at the roles, we got to identify what roles the child's going to play. And so I can fit the child in a certain place because each and every newborn child comes in, it's a puzzle, it's a team together. You know, they put together, and by doing this here, they have a strong bond, make the nation even stronger. So with everybody on the exact same vision of the exact same covenant, on the exact same truth, and keep going forward, operate as a team, then what happens is that nation gets stronger as we grow. And then as the tree, so if you look at it, you grow a tree small from a seed, and that tree grows real big, and the trunk of the tree is at about, 40 inches wide, diameter. That's a big tree. But at the same time, the fruit of the tree is heavy, and that's what we want. We want the fruit in the nation to be strong and come together. And so by looking at that tree and very fruitful, the nation's very fruitful, then what happens is now we're representing God, Israel, big time. And then now when you look at it outside, it's we're looking at it like, wow, I think we need to go this direction because we're showing others this is God of God, God is God of all gods, and this is the direction. So by doing that, the roles, we got to look at our kids and look at them. Hey, we got a role for you to do, and we trust us already. So now it's time for you to do your role when you get to that position.
Amen. Cameron?
Yeah, I agree. They're like, the tree trunk of to support the fruit of the nation. You know, I feel like, of course, as the role in the nation, I feel like, there's a backbone. Like when you look in the Bible, like I know they didn't talk much about Abraham's parents directly, but I bet his parents were pretty good. How he turned out. Also like even like other like figures in the Bible, even Jesse, Jeremiah, as Levi talked about earlier. How like you raised David to be fearless. He had to go up against lions and other stuff to defend his sheep, and of course his father had to teach him the proper ways to defend himself, to how to use a slingshot, even probably. And that comes from the parent as well. Um, and like their parents are really, responsible for passing the word and our culture down to the next generation. That's almost their so this the whole responsibility of being a parent to pass down the food, and to help during the feast and stuff like that. That's all. Most of those people who be cooking the feast and conducting services are parents. So on top of all their duties, of of tending to the nation, the children, of course, are the most important ones. Most important. But yeah.
That's You guys are making great points. Put some fires in the chat, you guys, for my wonderful panel tonight. All right. I think for my closing remarks on this, I think one thing I want to kind of leave you guys with is that parents and even just adults and our elders, uncles, aunties in the nation can never underestimate the power and influence they have on the children and the youth of this nation. One thing that I think about is when Jesus was ended up dying, and the people said, "Let the sins be upon the heads of our children." You never want to do that. You want to make sure that you're always building up your children, because of that mistake is now we're in this new Egypt and in this new situation, because those negative traits were passed on to the kids, and that sins, that burden was passed on to them, thus lessening the strength of the nation and bringing us down. As an Israelite parent, you have to look at these youth, you have to look at them and have to do what is very best for them. You have to walk in that light and that truth, and then you have to be making sure that you're comfortable enough to guide them in that light and that truth, no matter what. You can't lift this nation up if you're bringing down the future of this nation. Those two things don't correlate at all. So I feel like parents have a big responsibility, because the trust bond, that thing that we all want, you want the kid to trust in you, you have to be the one to initiate that. Just like the God of Israel initiated it with Abraham, you have to be the one to initiate that trust. So parents have a big responsibility. When you put that work in and you put that trust in, it's going to come onto the kids, and the kids will give it back tenfold, hopefully. So that's really all I have for today. I think it's about time that we wrap up and close out. So thank you, chat. Thank you, our viewers, for tuning in. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and, be on the lookout for the next Friday night. Make sure you're on Saturday. And that's all I really got to say. Peace.
Peace.